Hi, everybody. Welcome back to round 4 of the Cube Discord's CoinFlip Cube League. I'm Ben Grove, and I'm here for my round 4 match against Phrutz. Once again, if you're just tuning in here, this month we drafted Best Pal Al's CoinFlip Cube, which is a really unique cube in which each player decides their own CoinFlip results. That means there's a lot of really cool Pokemon that would never see the light of day otherwise featured heavily in this. One example, this Skyridge Arcanine with Pokepower Energy Recharge. When you play Arcanine from your hand to evolve your active Pokemon, you may flip 3 coins. For each heads, choose a basic energy from your discard and attach it to Arcanine. So in this cube, it just reads, when you evolve Arcanine, attach 3 basic energy from your discard to Arcanine. Seems pretty good. Also, it allows some really interesting trainer cards to be super strong. For those of you standard players out there, you thought Battle VIP Pass was bad enough. Why not have Dual Ball, which is just guaranteed get 2 basics into hand? Energy Restore. This is just Fire Crystal for any type you want. Pokeball, if you were unhappy with Master Ball or Luxury Ball having play restrictions on their search your deck for a Pokemon, why not just play Pokeball? So this cube has a lot of really cool interactions. It's one of my favorite to play. And let's hop right into the matchup. So once again, my deck that we drafted and we're playing is a dragon deck in which I'm taking Altaria from Crimson Invasion and using Draco Melody. Flip a coin. If heads, search your deck for a dragon Pokemon and put it onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. And I'm going to cheat out these 2 stage 2 dragons. Dragonite from Plasma Freeze with a item locking attack and a big tanky healing attack. And Flygon from Primal Clash with Sandflap, which will be a heavy disruption against my opponent and also just kind of like a draw engine for me as well. And my dragons are going up against a cat deck this week. So this is kind of a call to the video games. And the card is Liepard from Boundaries Crossed with the assist attack. Flip a coin. If heads, choose one of your bench Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. Pokemon has been really conservative with copying attack effects, and most of the copy attack effects you see in the trading card game are you're copying your opponent's Pokemon or your opponent's active or something like that. Very rarely will that you be allowed to copy one of your bench Pokemon's attacks. And you really won't be able to do it without a stipulation. The stipulation is flip a coin here, but we're just going to choose heads. And my opponent Phrutz has some really strong threats that he can use for assists. For example, Blaine's Moltres, a big Phoenix Flame for 90 damage. And if Liepard's damaged, you can just shuffle it back into the deck and avoid some KOs. Celebi is a great disruptive attack with Time Circle. During your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to Celebi by attacks from your opponent's stage 1 or stage 2 Pokemon. This includes my dragons that I'm cheating into play. And Celebi is also just a great acceleration engine for the deck with Forest Breath, and you can accelerate some basic grass energies. Watch and Learn Sudowoodo is another big threat. This is an example of copying opponent's attacks. Liepard can also copy Sudowoodo's attack, which is kind of funny. We're copying a copy. And Regigigas with Dragoff and Giga Hammer. The Dragoff is a nice threat to snipe some things that have been already damaged. Overall, I think Phrutz' deck is really great. I mean, he's got a great consistency lineup with Clara, a couple Judge, Juniper, Colress. Great consistency, great item search, and some serious threats in his attackers. But the one thing that is a saving grace for this deck is, with the exception of bodybuilding dumbbells, everything in this deck except for Regigigas will fall to a healing. So that is going to be my main game plan I'm going for here in these games. And let's just go ahead and get right on into it. So we start off with a coin flip. I believe I'm going first. I have a mulligan the first time around, and the first hand I get, I actually take a Gentleman's Mulligan. This is just a cube rule, because cube decks are kind of jank sometimes. If you don't like your opening hand, but it has a basic, you can just mulligan it away for free. And we mulligan away a Celebi hand that's kind of dead in the water with no grass energy to accelerate. And we get a hand with the starting Swablu instead, which feels a lot better. My opponent will take the mulligan for my actual mulligan I took first, and then I'll go ahead and start the game off with an attach. And I think I debate over whether I'm going to bench a Swablu, and I do, just in case I get a little disrupted, and we'll go ahead and pass. My opponent, with a strong start of their own with a Pokemon Collector, can go ahead and really solidify their bench, and I'm assuming they're hoping to power up some energy here with some Forest Breath while Celebi is in the active. Off of that Collector, we're going to get Purloin, a Diglett, and I believe they get Blaine's Moltres as well. The Diglett line in here is kind of the backbone of their disruptive engine, and you can kind of play around with Time Circle and making your opponent retreat to rack up damage with the Dugtrio. My opponent does get the Forest Breath off on turn 1 and attaches a basic Dark for turn, and they'll send it over to me. Off the top deck, I rip up Volkner, which means I've got a guaranteed Altaria as long as they're both in the deck, or at least one of those in the deck. I do, and I'll go for Lightning Energy and a Level Ball off of Volkner, and then I'll attach the energy spread around the board in case my Altaria gets knocked out, and I'll just go for the Draco Melody and bring out Dragonite. My opponent with Celebi in the active is able to Force Breath to it and attach a Rainbow Energy to the Purloin, so it's powered up, ready to go for an attack, and Celebi's ready to retreat. My opponent's going to give me an N, and we'll both shuffle our hands in and draw 6. Now, my opponent misses the Liepard, which is huge, and so they have to go in just for a Captivate, which will drag Dragonite up to the active. Normally, this would be pretty bad for me. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm just gonna kind of have to do some attach and praying with Lily, and off the Lily I rip 2 energy, so that's not gonna cut it, and we'll pass it over to my opponent. He starts popping off that N. We'll place an Escape Board on Celebi, which is great. Quick balling away a Swirlix and getting out another Diglett and getting a big Colress for 7 new cards. And with these 7 new cards, we'll get down a Purloin. Do they hit the Liepard is the big question. They need the Liepard. They're only playing 2 Liepard in the deck, and they don't, so they just have to pass. Off of that, I'm going to start my turn with a Spark, and I hit a Pokeball, which means I'm going to be able to move my energy around. I'll get Shaman and Celebration Wind, move those 2 Lightning up to the active. Attach Grass to Shaman, and because that Purloin only has 50 HP, I'm going to be able to Deafen and Item Lock and get a KO with that. My opponent is not going to be attacking this turn. Have to attach a Fighting to Liepard and Forest Breath one on. So I believe they're going to end up with a pass because they are not going to be able to hit the energy required to take a KO. Potentially in this spot. Oh no, wait, no, that dark was, or that fighting was there. Ignore me. They do hit a dark energy, but it's a double rainbow energy. Now, double rainbow energy is going to reduce their damage output by 10. And my opponent here goes for a Time Circle. So Time Circle is a disruptive attack against me because I'm a stage 2 and they're protected against damage from stage 2 Pokemon this turn. But luckily, I have plenty of switch outs in my deck. And I think about where I'm going to attach the energy to start, but I believe I do just settle on going in with the Shaman and hitting Energy Bloom. It's a sneaky attack that my deck can pull off. And here it's just going to heal up the damage that was done to the Dragonite and put some pressure on. No, my opponent has to respond, and I'm anticipating that my opponent is going to go for a Phoenix Flame with assist to knock out the Shaman. Drawing some cards with Bug Catcher, and then using Pokemon Communication to communicate a Regigigas back in the deck for a Doug Trio. Now, the Doug Trio, if your opponent's active Pokemon retreats, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. So, that in combination with Time Circle, I think, is my opponent's play that they're going for. We drop a Darkness onto Sudowoodo, which is threatening a Watch and Learn soon enough, and they'll just go for the Time Circle. Unfortunately, I don't think Time Circle really is putting me under any pressure with Shaman in the active, so I'm just going to attach to Swablu, which I can swoop away later, and Energy Bloom it back, and I'll heal the damage that Time Circle did to me. Passing back over to my opponent here. And they're going to attach to Doug Trio and Judge. I accidentally take a massively mistake mulligan there. There's my actual one, which is a very strong hand. I've got Energy Restore, I got Quick Ball, and Rainbow Energy is also very nice. Energy Restore might be nice if I just get KO'd here, which I believe my opponent does go for the Phoenix Flame after realizing that, oh wait, Time Circle is not going to be a good game plan against Shaman. And they do just go ahead and announce Phoenix Flame for the KO. Off the top deck, I take a look and see what Pokemon I can pull. With Quick Ball, I'm going to go ahead and Unknown Y and power up some more energy. And with the energy I Quick Ball away, I'll throw a whole bunch of energy back in hand. And Judge. And then I'll finish that light part off with a Deafen, which putting my opponent into Deafen range there is really nice because it just prevents any kind of item-based trickery. My opponent does have a Clara, which is great. It'll allow them to get some energy back in play and get a Liepard back in play as well. They're going to Forest Breath to the Purloin, and because I was able to Deafen last turn, it makes the Sudowoodo play a lot less threatening because Sudowoodo is going to copy my Deafen back and only hit me for 60, but I can Heal Wing and hit the Sudowoodo for 90, knocking it out, and then I'll have only 30 damage on me. The Sudowoodo is actually a really big threat in this matchup. If you're able to, say, swing in for 90 with a Liepard using Blaine's Moltres' attack, and then I have to knock that guy out with Heal Wing, and so I'll be at 60 health, or at 60 damage on me at 90 health left, and then you can Watch and Learn and knock me out with a Heal Wing. But because I was able to Deafen last turn, that puts my opponent in an awkward position, and you'll see they're going to go for an awkward attempt at, I believe they're going to go for a push down with a Doug Trio. Yep, and they retreat into Doug Trio, attach fighting, and push me down. And I kind of take this opportunity. I'm like, okay, that's fine. We'll just go into Altaria. The great thing about Altaria is it resists fighting. So if they just try and keep on pushing down, that won't be very successful. I make a small gameplay error there. I should have yielded first before I Bug Catchered. But I pulled the switch off the Bug Catcher. And so that means I'm just going to Heal Wing and take a KO. That puts me in a favorable trade position with Sudowoodo. My opponent attaches Special Dark for the turn and then gives me a big Judge. Knocks my hand down to 4. Still a very powerful hand with an energy attach and a Quick Ball. Lots of things going on. My opponent does, off the Judge, miss the Grass Energy. They were looking for a Grass Energy to accelerate with Forest Breath. to be able to hit me for, they would have been able to hit me for 100 with Phoenix Flame, which would have been great. So they whiff that, so they're instead just going to go for the Tail Trickery, and they say, okay, well, Ben, you burned switch last turn. Are you going to have yet another way to switch out? Right before they pass the turn, they're going to energy charge and throw that DRE back in the deck. So off the top deck, I read Erica, which is pretty good draw. So I'll be able to Erica my hand draw up to 3 more cards. My opponent will be able to do the same. Kind of risky in this situation because I don't have Judge and I'm giving my opponent free cards. But we're just going to have to do what we can here. So instead, what I do, since I don't really have a guaranteed good play, I'll go ahead and copycat, get myself a fresh hand. And then because my Dragonite has Floatstone attached, I'm going to retreat it for free. And I'll get Flygon out. So I've got my backup attacking threat once Dragonite goes down is now in play. My opponent into their turn, they're going to Night Maintenance and recover some energy that they whiffed off the previous turn. And they just had to go for the Tail Trickery. And they'll throw those energy back into the deck. Oh, changing their mind a little bit, Double Grass and a Dugtrio. Then, using Cynthia and Caitlin, discarding a Pokeball to get Clara back, which is going to be really, really impactful for them to cycle through their guys since they only have 2 Lipards total. They are able to hit the energy for turn, and then they make a really cool play of using Drag Off from Regigigas, which before doing damage, you may choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and switch it with a defending Pokemon. Because they have this special Dark attached to Lipard, they're going to do 40 damage instead of 30 with the Drag Off and take the KO on my Unknown Y that's been building up all this energy for turn after turn after turn. Going into my turn, I have a teammates available, and I'm going to go ahead and take it because why wouldn't you? Off the teammates, kind of considering my options, I'm going to take Unknown Q so I can keep that Rainbow Energy in play. The Rainbow Energy is really important to power up Flygon. I'm going to attach Grass to Flygon, retreat Altaria, and take a couple chip damage from the Dugtrio. And then I'll go for the Healing to take the KO. Now, if my opponent has the Watch and Learn to smack me back, that'd be big. I did forget to Sandflap them with my Flygon, so they had the Clara in hand. And surprise, surprise, they'll get back Grass and Fighting. So they'll be able to be Force Breathing, powering up a second attacker while attaching for turn to the Sudowoodo. And I'm assuming they're going to get back... they're going to get back a Purloin and a Diglett as well. Attaching Fighting to the Sudowoodo, benching the Diglett, and they'll just come in with the Sudowoodo and Watch and Learn the Heal Wing. Doing a little bit of checking of their discard pile, see what they've got left going on. I'll keep powering up Flygon, and I'll do a little... think about doing a little sneaky play here, and I will. I will play down Training Center and Sandflap my opponent, because Sudowoodo is not an evolved Pokemon like a Stage 1 or a Stage 2, or an Evolution Pokemon. It does not get the health buff that my Dragonite does, so my Dragonite is humongous. And by this point, my opponent is down 4 prizes to 1, so the writing's kind of on the wall. Game 2, I start Celebi, and this hand is a lot better of a Celebi hand, especially since I'm going second. I have 2 energy that I can immediately accelerate into play, as well as a reserve ticket and a draw supporter in Spark, so I can set up what I want to happen off of that draw supporter and maybe sort of guarantee myself a Swablu into an Altaria. But in a way, I'm also fine with just taking Celebi and going for an early time circle. Like that's not bad at all. like there's a lot worse hands that I could gentleman's mulligan myself into. So I'll keep Celebi start with the correct energy. I got a mulligan, and then my opponent is going to attach grass to Sudowoodo and reserve ticket, hopefully setting themselves up for something nice on turn 2. After they found their card, I pull an Altaria off the top deck, and that's about as good as it could get. Because with my reserve ticket, I'm just gonna grab a Swablu here after checking the deck through prizes. I settle on the 50 HP Swablu, because that's probably best, and I'll use Spark to grab it and a Bug Catcher, so like another draw supporter. Seems pretty good. I'll Force Breath and then attach for turn. My opponent grabbed a Professor Birch's Observations with the reserve ticket to just get a fresh new hand to 7. And they'll be able to bench a guy, calm a Dugtrio in, and probably get down a Liepard and pass it over to me. Off of that, I'm going to Bug Catcher for 4. Get an Altaria into play. Attach to Celebi, the Rainbow Energy, and Draco Melody. And off of Draco Melody, in this instance, I'm going to grab a Flygon. My opponent really hasn't gotten a board set up yet, so being able to judge them every turn was pretty good. On their turn, they're just able to judge me and attach to Purloin, so not too strong. I pull a Volkner off the judge, and I'm going to grab a Lightning Energy, and after looking through my deck for balls to use to get more guys into play, I realize there's only one Quick Ball left. So I will use it. I'll attach the Lightning for turn, and then just Draco Melody. Since I'm not under any kind of pressure right now, might as well get my second attacker out. My opponent Quick Balls away a Fighting Energy, and it's able to Colress for 6. Not too shabby. Gets a Pokeball, which is going to get them into a Slurpuff to start drawing some cards with tasting. And off those cards they drew, they're going to find a Liepard. That Liepard is going to get an energy attached to it. But I play great top decking, I don't know why. Now I've got 4 energy in play. And after I Quick Ball away Slurpuff to get Shaman, I'm going to be able to get enough energy onto the Dragonite to start taking KOs with Watch and Learn. I'll Swoop Teleporter and get rid of Celebi to get Unknown Q, so I can attach that to Altaria. And then I'll Sand Flat myself to get a fresh new hand. Attaching Rainbow for turn to the Flygon is great, and then I'll Lily to draw a fresh new hand, and Healing for the KO. That lets my opponent promote their Slurpuff so they can tasting for a big 2 cards. And they'll go ahead and use Pokeball to get a second Liepard into play and judge me. Off the judge, they find Floatstone, which is great. And they don't find an energy attached, so they have to go for the Tail Trickery again, which unfortunately my deck is very well equipped to deal with. So I just go ahead and use Olympia, switch into my Free Retreater Altaria, and Healing for the KO. At this point, their board is looking a little shabby with no energy in play. They'll get Birch's Observations with the Versus Seeker, and draw a fresh new 7, or shuffle draw a fresh new 7. Attach and go for another Tail Trickery. And unfortunately, I do have plenty of outs in hand. I've got Pokeball and now Level Ball Comp Search. I'm going to go for the Comp Search to save the Pokeball play for the Chat Talk for later. Actually, I'll just discard the Pokeballs because I still got Level Ball. So I'll get Switch off Comp Search, and I'll switch into Dragonite, and my opponent will scoop. Yeah, there was like the they were really in a rough spot at that point. Their board was looking like no energy in play, just a Celebi, Dugtrio, and Slurpuff, none of which are really the main attackers of the deck. Those are more of the disruptive backbone. But my deck was kind of really just churning through that disruption. And like if my opponent at this point doesn't have an escape board on the Celebi and is like 2 turns away from using Time Circle. So it's just kind of rough. I will say in the first game, when my opponent went for the Time Circle against me, when I had a basically fully ready Dragonite, I think they should have just gone for a Phoenix Flame from Blades of Moltres. I think one thing that I saw in the 3rd and 4th round was that when my opponents try and get cute against my deck deals with cute very well. Like confusion and just like retreat shenanigans. My deck has kind of dealt with that well because I've got Unknown Q, Floatstone, Switch, Olympia, Chatot to get back Olympia. Right there, that's 5 switch outs, plus I've got 2 Double Gust, which are kind of like pseudo switch. So my deck has a large game plan into that. I think against the dragons, you have to threaten them with damage because their weakness is getting back into play once they've been knocked out. And especially in my deck, I chose not to run Super Rod, which could have been it's old Super Rod, not new Super Rod. So it's flip a coin. If heads get back an evolution, if tails get back a basic, it's either that or the opposite way. But that was the other piece of recovery I could have played to like immediately get a guy back in the hand, so I can maybe if Dragonite gets knocked out, I Super Rod it, put it back in hand, Sandflap away, and then Draco Melody and get it back into play. With my deck, I have to commit to a Brock's Grit if I want to get a dragon back into play, and I think I've found that most of the time I'm trying to use Dragonite, Flygon, Shaman, or Celebi for something cute, and Regigigas as like the attackers that I go through. So if my opponent is presenting hard damage, in addition to or instead of cute confusion retreat plays, like if your deck is presenting damage and threatening my guys, that's a lot bigger of a problem for me to deal with. So I think that that might have been probably the one big misplay in this game that allowed me to like have a really have a really nice window to just take over the game. Now, obviously, that's something that I'm saying completely with hindsight and completely without knowledge of my opponent's hand, but that was just kind of my observation. And I think observation, as I've played 4 rounds, the decks that gave me the most trouble were the ones that were presenting strong early damage, because then I fall behind on prizes, and then my guys are getting quickly damaged, and maybe I can't keep up in the race. So great thing is I move on to 4-0, and moving into, I believe it's the last round of Swiss. I'll be paired against the other 4-0 deck, which is a Crobat deck. And Crobat pairs a little bit of the confusion element that I saw with Liepard here, but the attacks that do confusion also do a chunk of damage, and they'll be hitting for like 80 or 70 damage. So I think that deck is very strong, and it has a lot of potential for like early plays that can put me out of a game. Like if I have a Crobat that Flutter Tricks me and discards like my only Altaria out in hand, could get really dicey. So I think it's going to be a really great matchup. My deck is just some strong Pokemon, and the Crobat deck has a lot of creative plays. So looking forward to that matchup. And we'll see you guys back here for that.